of the media, I want to report again that the GECOM meeting, which was called today, and which we commissioners on this side thought was a special meeting, again descended into a farce. Commissioner Shadi presented the document which he had proffered for the use of the President in respect of holding elections in the shortest possible time. And that document suggested that the life of the list, which ends on April 30th, was the shortest possible time. We eventually started a discussion on a motion to interrogate and to put for the use of the President for his consideration the budgeting with respect to April the 30th in respect of the shortest possible time. However, during discussions on this matter, Commissioner Alexander, who appears to be the oracle at the Commission in respect of having the chairman make up his mind, suggested and out of left field that elections could not be held unless GECOM pays attention to holding the elections after having house-to-house registration. Completely ignoring that a motion was on the floor which was being considered and was not voted on, and the chairman instantly seized upon that which was proffered by Alexander, and to say, along with the support of other members on the other side, who are now being questioned in a civil motion, a civil action in the courts in respect of their violations of Guyana's constitution, they all suddenly said on that side that they support Alexander's motion, ignoring the motion which was on the floor, and wanted us to vote and go ahead on the question of holding elections in or only after house-to-house registration is done, which will take perhaps 6 months, 9 months, or until February next year, depending on which one of Alexander's suggestions we would want to adopt. We have decided that we will not sit there and be in the same position as the chairman, Justice Retired Patterson, Commissioners Alexander, Corbin, and Trotman. We will not sit there, violate the Constitution, and be open to charges and actions in the courts with respect to violating the Constitution, a Constitution which we have sworn to uphold. I could now ask Commissioner Shadi.
I need to say to the press that Commissioner Alexander, to use very, very, very blunt language, came and lied to the press last Tuesday to say that on the agenda there was the discussion of the submissions the three commissioners here were proffering to the President for the meeting last Friday, which the President did not accept on the advice of the learned Attorney General, who said unless the document comes from GECOM, he can't accept it. The thing is that those same submissions were made to GECOM on the 24th of January, and they never discussed it. So, I understand that belatedly now, when we come here today, we are hearing that they had a memorandum prior to Tuesday's meeting to say that that document would have been discussed. And interestingly, the memorandum was sent to the three coalition commissioners, not to the three of us. You're supposed to guess that. So there was an agenda that included nothing about any plan for elections. And suddenly, Mr. Alexander comes out here and tells the press that the next item would have been discussing submissions I had made. And that is absolutely correspondence. And they're going to discuss it as correspondence. And that was nonsense, because correspondence was distributed to us and didn't include any mention of that. In fact, Commissioner Ben at that meeting tried to bring that into discussion, that we should be discussing this, and it was ignored. So for Commissioner Alexander to come and tell the press otherwise, that is blatant misinformation. It's lying. Then, today we go there, and we are discussing Charles Corbin, who likes to sound as he's this middle of the road man. Let us cost the shortest thing. this submission that I made, and he wants it costed in detail, and nobody is making any fuss about that. Let's cost it. And I'm saying cost it. If you used to spend $2 billion and you now have to spend $5, then the president should be so informed because the president asked for that. So cost it. And if you want to put alongside it what you would have normally spent, put that, because it doesn't really matter. The thing is that what we have in this country now is the 21st of March is coming, and people have to go back to Parliament before anything else can happen after that. And the way this is going on, that isn't happening, because the leader of the opposition had said very clearly he's prepared to go back to ask for up to the 30th of April, because that's when the list is valid. The fact is that GECOM has not taken any step to renew that list as per normal that should have been done since earlier this year. They've taken no steps to do that. So as we stand here, we have a list of electors that expires on the 30th. I'm advised that we can't go to the Parliament to extend the life of it, because Parliament has legislated that the list, once certified and is valid for 6 months. So come the 1st of May, there is no list of electors. So, and what they are saying now is that the only list that we can have is one that comes after house-to-house registration. Now for me, as a commissioner, to sit there and to agree to any plan that takes us beyond the 30th of April would be me suborning the Constitution. And that's not something I would do. I don't want any private citizen to be filing criminal charges against me for violating the Constitution. That's absolute nonsense, and I refuse to do that. The thing is, however, we have information that apparently the chairman met with the 3 commissioners before today's meeting.
Those 3.
With those 3, not us. We are left out. We don't even get a thing. We got the thing saying reconvene. This could not have been a reconvene meeting because the agenda for that meeting didn't include what they were going to discuss. And so therefore, those are points that, you know, seem to be passed over. So if this plan, and I am saying we give, all that the plan has is that they find the last date for elections has to be the 29th of April, because that's the last Monday before the 30th. And everything else needs to be done before that. If it has to be costed and it has to cost 2.5 times what it used to cost, then so be it. Because we have taken, you know, this is happening, this is what is going on, and no wonder they're facing charges. The thing is that they should, on that base, on that point too, we spent like almost an hour trying to say that this GECOM must pay for lawyers to represent those people who sit down there to violate the Constitution. Oh, and the vote is taken. We said no. And the vote was taken, the 4 commissioners voting for themselves. The GECOM will pay their legal fees. So all of this nonsense that is going on here is like hijacking this Constitution that we have, and then GECOM must pay to represent the people who are hijacking it. And this is absolute nonsense. There is no way that we are going to sit there and knowingly breach the Constitution of our land. I don't know how the president is going to go to the leader of the opposition. It's nice to talk about Article 106.7, but 106.7 has to be done with the agreement of the opposition. There is no 2/3 majority that the coalition has. So if you're not going to go to the leader of the opposition with a proposal that he can live with, how are you going to get this 2/3 to go and extend anything? So ladies and gentlemen of the media, we are going to move beyond Pagode in an uncharted territory. We are hearing all the utterances of the diplomatic people. We are hearing all of that. The president's letter says, provide me with a plan for elections in the shortest possible time and the financial requirement. They're not prepared to go shortest possible time. The shortest possible time has to end on the 30th of April. There is no other reality. And that is very clear. It's very clear to us, and it should be clear to the people again.
Shadi, how long will it take to, after the list expires on April 30th, how long can it take to...
Well, claims and objections and continuous registration and so on take no less than 90 days, I think, because they have statutory numbers. But you see, those things should have started since December and January. They never started. And CEO to say there that, you know, he didn't have permission to do that, that's nonsense. If the law says that the list has a validity of 6 months, then you got to move to refresh that list. Nothing was done. And when I asked very early, 22nd or 23rd or something of January, the CEO said that is overtaking my time. So this chairman, having been ill, apparently couldn't be asked to make an order to do claims subscription. All of this is blatant people orchestrating that they're not going to have elections consequently in no confidence motion.
It seems every meeting we have, you end up at a roadblock where you walk out because things are not happening. What else can you guys do?
I don't know what else we can do. Nobody's being reasonable.
Worst case scenario, March 21 comes, or near March 21.
Unconstitutional government.
Yeah, but worst case scenario, will the three of you be open to allowing for the list to be refreshed and the holding of elections?
That has nothing to do with us.
That
has to do with the leader of the opposition, if the president can get together with him and have him agree. Because that is only something that can be done before next Thursday in the parliament for any extension. That has nothing to do with it. That's nothing. And frankly, I have been sitting there meeting after meeting from the 22nd of January, and nobody's making any move to refresh the list. If they had started, you could have seen that there is an end in sight. They haven't started. So what's their excuse for not starting? They don't intend to start. What they have started is advertising for enumerators and so on for house registration. And in fact, I saw a Facebook post that Gary Best is encouraging people to apply for enumerators. I don't know what he has to do with this, but he's encouraging people to go and apply for enumerators, to go and do house registration. So this whole thing is a concerted plan, and nobody seems to understand or to appreciate the consequences after the 21st.
But why doesn't it have anything to do with you if you have to refresh your list when you can't come back with this?
The decision was made a long time ago that when the list is valid, they have to do that. Them not doing it has nothing to do with us. I agree with the man. The thing is, it can be done. And the thing I shared with you all that last day shows that it can be done. It can be done at more cost. Well, if the government can find money for everything else, it can find $5 billion to hold elections. That's as far as I'm going.
At today's meeting, this meeting was a continuation of the meeting which lost its scope during the
application. Could you step in the corner and just probably be helpful for all of us?
The meeting was summoned by the chairman, and it was, according to him, it was a continuation of the meeting which lost its scope when we met last. There was some discussion around whether it was a continuation or a new meeting. From us, we were, three of us were provided with some correspondence delivered to us by the CEO. That correspondence was a proposal which was apparently first delivered, an attempt was made to first deliver it to the president of the meeting, which we had not seen that, and it was under the name of 3 commissioners. We got that, and so it was considered by me and the other commissioners who received it then as correspondence. As you may have been aware already in the last session, that the walkout occurred immediately during the course of the minutes, and we did not get to that. The chairman reconvened the meeting to continue, and the first debate was whether or not it was a continuation or a new meeting. Additionally, there was new correspondence, which we referred earlier. We did receive another letter from the president requesting information which he had previously requested. We advanced to the point where we started discussion on the content of the submission, but we didn't get very far. There seemed to be 2 elements of that discussion. One which revolved around finance, and the other which goes into the content. The debate was in relation to the first, was tying the money to the dated time associated within the plan, the proposal that was presented, and suggestions that you cannot discuss anything other than that. During the course of that discussion, two motions were, there were attempts at two motions, one of which sought to deal with the money itself and the manner in which it should be phrased with respect to what would have been required under ordinary circumstances. And if we were going to shrink the time, what would be the additional cost? So for instance, if you were going to ship our sensitive materials normally, what it would cost, and if you wanted the fastest possible expedited shipment, what that would cost. And so when we go through that is what we were in effect debating. There seemed to be, and that was properly put, there seemed to be an issue as presented that they didn't want to have a vote on that by itself. They wanted that position to be tied, the money to be tied to an actual date, and the issues can be separated as such. They did not want that. So the discussion proceeded to now discuss the actual content. So presentations were made in this instance by Commissioner to actually interrogate the actual elements. And what was found was that the presentation itself made no reference to the issue of this. And so what was proposed at that point is that if we were to produce something in the shortest quantum and to comply with all the provisions and all the responsibilities, we needed to proceed to the election with a credible list based on house-to-house verification. So a motion was moved to that effect. It was seconded and it was moved to the vote. During the process of the vote, when three commissioners indicated that they vote in favor, the other commissioners, led by Commissioner Shadi, said that she will not be here and vote on any question. And at that point, that commenced the process of a walkout after the commissioners were voting. So what they said is that they're withdrawing from voting on that question, and that at that point they walked out after we had signaled that we were in the process of executing the vote. Then three commissioners had indicated that they were going.
So what happened to the vote?
Well, we had voted. They said that they will not participate in any vote. All right, and they picked up at that point while the vote was in progress. So that basically they abstained from voting on the question. So basically, in this particular instance, the chairman didn't even have to intervene because there were 3 votes
for the motion
and
for house to house,
and there was an abstention. The vote was to proceed to elections with a list that is the basis of a house-to-house registration. And that is the point when they left.
What's the next?
Well, we will have to communicate, the chairman will have to communicate to the president what has occurred, what those positions are.
But I mean, how could you say that the motion was passed when indeed they did not participate in the process?
No, they did. What they said when the motion was there, the vote started. The Commissioner Shadik says she will not participate. That is an abstention. If something is on the ground, you said you're not going to be involved. You remove yourself. That is an abstention.
When
Is it an abstention or is it?
When they left, 3 persons had already voted. At the time when they walked out, 3 persons had already voted. So in actual fact, their absence meant when they were leaving without voting, it meant that they had abstained. So we had a motion, which to my mind is being carried by 3.
But does indication of non-participation amount an abstention? Don't you have to say I'm abstaining or yes or no?
Well, no, you don't necessarily have to say that you're abstaining. You could remain silent. And silence is construed as an abstention. You don't necessarily say that I'm abstaining.
But they said they weren't participating. participating.
They said that they're not voting. That's what they said. They're not voting. And the vote, three commissioners had already voted when they left.
What did they say, Mr. Governor? Not participating or they're not voting?
I will not support Commissioner Shadi. I will not be voting on this question.
So then your next step as a commissioner is to inform the president.
That is what should occur. Because we have to advise the president on the status, and it will be up to the secretariat. I don't know if you are familiar with what was presented to us, but the fact is that what has been presented to us in the document which we received from the CEO, indicating that it was under the hand of commissioners then Shadik and Gunraj. If you see the content of that document, it flies in the face in its details of what has been presented to us by the Secretariat, which has been the elements of which have been thoroughly interrogated prior to now.
Tell me something, when do you hope to, even as you seem to be heading in the direction of ourselves, intend to proceed with the refreshing of the existing list?
There are issues we never got around, and I don't want to advance the details. But the fact is that the proposals presented to us by the Secretariat had some implicit issues associated with that. The next list that we have to prepare is one that will have a qualifying date of 31st of October.
Yeah, but when the process will begin?
The process is supposed to start on the 1st of May.
On the 1st of May? On
the 1st of May, the field operation is supposed to commence. The time before that is used for preparation. So what should have happened to have a list starting on which will gain life on the 1st of May, should have started since last year. We're already nearly 5 months into the process, which is the whole preparation and delivery time of that.
And you said how long that will take? About 3 months?
You talking about preparation or the whole process?
The whole process. The
whole process is a 6-month process. That's the reason why the Commission, decided that they will produce 2 lists a year. One with a qualifying date of the 30th of April, and one with a qualifying date of 31st of October. It was after our experience has shown that we have actually gone to the Parliament to adjust 2 timelines. The problem, we have some legislative issues that have to be addressed. We've already attempted to adjust the timelines in the legislation associated with preparation. So that if you will check, you will see that when we got to 2016 elections, we actually moved the timelines from nomination day to election day back to 50 days, because we recognized that there were some issues that were occurring which were not but we knew that there were some other issues occurring. So we actually adjusted, but we only did it for but it's the same process. We only did it for local government elections. We didn't attempt to address at the same time the general elections. So only when an issue is upon you, we tend to go to look at that piece of legislation as an item.
But Mr. Corbyn, if the opposition leader and the president were to strike a compromise at some other day, given what is happening, where does that leave you with your intent to have house to house or to refresh the existing list?
What will be presented and what is before us is what the Secretariat is capable of doing. You could say that you want to travel to Linden and you must get there in 45 minutes. Whether you could practically do that, you could say anything. The fact is that if you don't have the vehicle, the road conditions, what has to be done, it has an impact on that. It's the same thing in getting this task done.
But could the refresh list be a fallback?
When you said the refresh list?
A refreshing of the list that is about to expire.
when you say refreshing, what is the process for doing that? There has to do that. Anytime you do that, you're talking about, let me put it this way, there are two separate issues. There are logistics associated with the delivery of elections that have nothing to do with the list.
I understand that.
Those logistics will require 6 months. That was what we made public since 2014. The issue is that during that same 6-month period, you can do parallel activities where you could do other things.
Right.
One of those other things is the actual process of updating and cleansing the list. What we have found, which is the real issue, what we have found over time is that the cleaning part, that is to say, the removal of persons from the list, the process of objections, we found, as it is implemented and the procedures we put in place, does not have the cleansing effect that we thought it would, because of the regulate. If you want to say that Mr.
John Jones
should not be on the list. Why? Because he's dead. The person who's presenting that must get the death certificate produced by the GRO. However, in the community, everybody knows we've been to history. There is no other process, if you just said, that we have agreed to and put in our procedures that will allow you to be able to do that, except there is a step you go through that. That's the regulations we have in the field. So we have not been able to effectively utilize objections to actually do that. So, at this point in time, we have...
Is a cleansing list a fallback if you can't get ourselves in the political leaders?
You will have to pass other legislation that will allow you to remove persons, because it was attempted before, and what was indicated to us several years ago when we were attempting to address this problem. The Commission has actively been internally debating this issue over the years, and we have ended up saying that, look, house to house. And that's the reason why we're back here, because we've been trying to do that. If you're going to institute any other procedure to clean the list, you will require acceptable legislative procedures for doing that. Let me point this out. At the moment, our last OLE has 633,156 persons on it. I repeat, the last OLE called on the 31st of October 2018 has 633,156 persons. If we were to pull a PLE to commence a process, there will be in excess of 7,000 persons who were under 18 at that time who will be added. So we will start out with a process where we're starting out with a PLE with in excess of 640,000. Now, those are the facts. Let me add another piece of data to you. We have identified internally in GECOM, as at 2018, on the insistence that our list was not credible, on the insistence and pursuit of Commissioners Ben and Shadi, a process that evolved from them. We then decided, look, we will extract the persons who we think are ghosts, and we will provide those names so that we could attempt to locate those persons, to remove them from that concept. It was in excess of 28,000 persons. We got feedback on less than 1,000. At the moment, that number is 31,000. 31,000. So we internally have a question with respect to 31,000 persons who are on the electoral roll, who we cannot verify exists. So the question is, what do you do? There is no legal procedure that we can move as debated internally. We cannot trouble those persons. The only way the only process we have in place at the moment is to create a new list. And that is the reason why it was agreed that we will go to house. And this was promoted by Commissioner Ben, particularly from the time he joined the commission. Whoever controls those ghosts, and we don't know who they are.
Don't you have ghosts?
We don't know who the ghosts are. We don't know who controls the ghosts. But whoever controls the ghosts, assuming it is 30, that is 6 seats. The balance in this country is less than 2 seats. So if any one of the contestants is controlling ghosts, you control the elections. We, in our role, must manage a process that delivers something that is fair, that we could feel comfortable that we did all in our power. We cannot go forward saying that this is good when we know that there are ghosts out there and it's possible that some one of the contestants is likely to control ghosts for which we can't deal with. We know that before, and I think it's incumbent upon us to ensure that whatever system, we put all the systemic procedures in place to say that that is the most that we can do. In terms of the discussion, what should happen is that the Secretariat should prepare what it would ordinarily cost if we do things in a manner in which we have determined it should be done. And if we were where it is possible to shrink time by using a different procedure, then they will also, alongside of that element, place what the shrunk time, what shrinking the time means in terms of cost. So for example, one of the elements in producing the budget has to do with the shipping, just using this as an example, has to do with shipping our sensitive materials. The routine costs to which we agreed was that we will use one method. That method is $39,000 US. That process gets our sensitive material here between 5 to 7 days. There is another method. That method allows our material to get here between 3 and 5 days. The difference between those two methods, one is $39,000, and the other one, it's $150,000 to $200 US. You understand me? So we will say that, look, this element is 39, and this one is 150 to 200,000 for the 2 days. So the difference between the 3 days at the minimum and the 7 days, or the 5, in the last instance, the 5 to 7, we were able to deliver, we were able to get it here in 5 days. So the minimum, we assume that if we operate in the same way, we may be able to get that. So the difference of the 2 days between 3 and 5 is 150 to 200 US dollars. There is a request, the way in which it was put to the President. Mr. President, you know, in normal circumstances, we use the post, and it was just suggested that, you know, if you want to get it here, use DHL. In this instance, we don't need to use hypotheticals and hypothetical cases. We have the facts, so the President must be told we could do this, that it costs $39,000, and we have the information because it's documented to us. We have an option of getting in here in 5 days, and the difference for the 2 days is 150 to 200,000 US dollars. And those are the decisions which we have to make. You make the determination as to whether we would want, and I should tell you, I have appended my signature to the recommendation as to the process. Let me put it further. Commissioner Gunraj and I, who are the persons who went through this process, made recommendations, and the two of us signed the document, which made a recommendation as to what process we should use, and that process was to use the $39,000. If there is a process now, I don't know the same thinking that I had then is the same thinking that I have now. That 2 days for a difference of 150 to 200,000 US dollars, won't contribute to that at this stage. because that goes into the other question of how we spend the nation's resources. But, like I said, we have to make a decision on that. And what will happen in terms of the decision that we've made is that we will present the two options, and then there will be a decision on that, which may be outside. Once our role is to present it, we've said what our opinion, but if the nation feels that way, the leader believes that the 2 days in this particular example that I'm giving is worth 150 to 200,000 US dollars, and they make that available, then I'm sure that's what will happen.
So if you don't get house to house, what happens after March 21 and there is no political agreement?
What GECOM in our domain?
Can you hold elections? My question again, Mr. Corbin, please don't cut. Can you hold elections with a cleansed existing list at least by September of this year? I understand all you've said about the advantages of having house to house, but if
there will be some other decisions that have to be made. There was a time when we would have had the opportunity to discuss that. What happened is that before we went into discussing it, there has been a refusal to go into those details. And I will tell you one of them. One of them has to do with the qualifying date. The standing decisions of the Commission is that we will have 2 qualifying dates. So if things were to run in mode, the instructions that the Secretariat get is that they have to use a qualifying date of the 30th of April and the 31st of October. Everyone knows that we cannot produce, so if we have to change a decision with respect to qualifying date, because we cannot prepare a new list that will be ready in 31st of October, on the 30th of April. So the point I'm saying today that these things are beyond the surface, and you have to interrogate them at the level of the task that has to be done. And so while there is general reference to this global position, one says, okay, we've had proposals, and I mean, maybe we'll have to go to the public and share with you what it is that is happening. There have been proposals, for example, that we could complete the process of acquisition of the staff within 29 to 32 days. For 3 sessions, we said, could you present how you're going to do this? When we eventually got it, I will give you 2 elements in it, or one part of that. We advertised for 2 weeks. This is the proposal they said. We advertised for 2 weeks. We saw the applications within a week. And we invite the applicants to training within the week. So they started. The proposal that was put was that the 2 weeks for advertisement will be 2 days. The receipt of the applications will be 1 or possibly 2 days. The informing the persons will be another 2 days, and the training of the persons will be for 2 days. So within a period of 7 days approximately, we would have completed that entire process as the proposal, alongside the Secretariat's proposal. So I'm saying we can go through those those proposals in detail to say what we are faced with as we go into the details of. What the Commission has done, the Commission has advised the President that the Commission cannot deliver elections within the 90-day period commencing 21st of December. We also cannot deliver the election for the period ending 30th of April. This has been documented internally. We have advised the President accordingly. The question for us to do is to deal with what is the shortest possible time we can deliver. And if we don't get into the substance of that debate, then we can't deal with these issues. And what has been happening each time you attempt to address the substance, there is a walkout. This is the fourth time that there's a consistent when we reach the point of really interrogate. So one doesn't, you don't have the option of saying, okay, you tell me, explain how this works.